Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Good. How about yourself?
Well, I'm alive, walking and talking, so I have no complaints.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that. May I ask you to please tell us your name and share anything about yourself you feel comfortable sharing with us?
Well, my name is Delbert Jarmon, and I am probably more known as DJ Kraze. Um, I'm a disc jockey by trade, profession I've been doing professionally for over 30 plus years. Um, I am also, I'm sorry, that's my alarm. I am, you want me to start over?
You're good.
Okay. I'm also the family and community liaison at W.G. Pearson Elementary School with Durham Public Schools. And I've been in that um, capacity for the last 4 years. And I do a lot for the community. I'm a community activist, so to speak, and I do a lot of community activism. I work with families, I work with students, run a food pantry at my school. I just do a lot of different things on top of being a disc jockey as well.
Absolutely. So tell me what a family liaison is in the public school system.
You say, tell you what the family liaison is?
Yes, tell me what your role is in the public school system. Explain that.
So my role is basically a problem solver.
Mhm.
I work with the families on just about any and all issues you could think of, from school issues, from teacher issues, to discipline issues, to emotional issues, mental issues, um, um, home issues, dealing with sometimes helping families find places to live, sometimes helping families get food access, sometimes helping families just about anything in life that you could think of that goes wrong. The family liaison job is to help them in that capacity.
Mhm. And how did you end up in that field? Did you select that, or were it kind of found you?
That's funny you asked that. I would say that it found me. My wife would tell you that she directed me to it. I started out with Durham Public Schools as a substitute school teacher,
Mhm.
and I was a substitute for about 12 years. Um, and I did that all the while owning my own coffee house.
Mhm.
So I owned and operated my own coffee house for about 14 years. And I was also a substitute school teacher during that same time period. So I had family members that worked at the shop. My dad and my brother helped me out during the day, and I would substitute during the day, and then I would come work at my coffee house in the evenings.
Mhm.
And so eventually I decided to close up my coffee house, and I was trying to look for what I was going to do next.
Mhm.
And the school system seemed to be where I was, destined to be. So I started looking and applying for jobs within the Durham public school system.
Mhm.
And I ended up getting hired on at Southern High School, working with, they had a program, they have a program called COPE. And that program basically works with youth that are having behavioral issues and that type of sort of thing. And so I started out working at Southern High School. At the time while I was working at Southern High School, uh, I was content with working in that capacity.
Mhm.
And my wife found this job one day. She was on Durham Public Schools looking for jobs because she was looking to get into the school system as well. She's an accountant,
Mhm.
and she had seen this position, family liaison at W.G. Pearson, and she read the specs of the job, and she hit me and said, "This job has your name written all over it."
Mhm.
And so I looked into it, and I was actually very hesitant at first, because the job was it is a grant job.
Mhm.
So it is contingent upon the school receiving this grant. And they had the grant, but it was only guaranteed for 5 years.
Mhm.
And they were in the first year of that grant.
Mhm.
And so basically the job was only guaranteed for another 4 years.
Right.
So I was hesitant about it, but again, looking at, what the job entailed, um, as she said, the job basically entailed everything that I was already doing in the community, except I wasn't getting paid for it.
Mhm.
I was doing it out of the goodness of my heart. Just what I do. And so I decided to apply for the job, and I ended up getting it. And so here I am now as the family liaison for W.G. Pearson, and we're actually on the final year of that grant now, with the potential of my job becoming permanent.
Mhm.
So, and it looks as if that it may go permanent, but we shall see at the end of this year.
Excellent. So in that capacity and in your time in Durham Public Schools, can you give us some insight into what works and what doesn't work for Black and brown children in the public school system?
Oh man. I, there's a whole, God, there's so many things that, there's so many things that don't work. And there are a lot of things that do. One of the things that I've also been blessed with as I've been at W.G. Pearson was, Durham Public Schools actually founded a program for young Black boys, Black and brown boys, um, called We Are Kings. And this program is specifically designed for uh, boys of color. And it is designed to basically teach them who they are, teach them their heritage, where they come from, the kings that they are, and to help address the social and emotional and behavioral issues that have seemed to be plaguing our uh, boys of color within all school systems, not just Durham Public School System. We tend to lead uh, in the Department of Suspensions. We tend to lead in the Department of in-school suspensions. We tend to lead in all disciplinary functions, and we seem to be in the bottom of the educational aspect of it. So this program has actually been designed to help address those issues. Now, what works with the program is, young kids, because in my capacity, I'm sorry, I am actually over that program at my school. And the We Are Kings program is at different schools, and it may be a different name at different schools, but basically it's the We Are Kings program. But in my capacity, what I am able to do and afforded to do is bring in other Black and brown people, such as myself, that these young folk can get in front of, that they can see and they can touch and they can talk to and communicate with. I never forget when I first got to W.G. Pearson, might have been my second day on the job. The principal coach at the time, she brought a young man to me and she said, "Mr. Jarmon, this young man just needs to talk to somebody that looks like him."
Mhm.
And I thought that was just, I was like, wow. And I'm talking about, it's my second day on the job.
Mhm.
And mind you, when I got to the job, I was the second Black man in the building. Matter of fact, there were a lot of Black teachers, not a lot, but there were Black teachers, but they were all female. As
Mhm.
far as Black men being in the building, there was only one until I got and I'm talking about in my entire school building.
Mhm.
So I was the second Black man to come into the school building. However, I was the first Black man that was in a position that wasn't a disciplinary position.
Mhm.
The other Black man that was at the school, he is in charge of the in-school suspension program. So by the time these young Black brothers and sisters see this Black man, they're already in trouble.
Mhm.
I'm in a position where they can see me in a good light, and they see me in the hallways. I come to their classrooms, and it just I think it benefits our young Black brothers and sisters to see people like them that look like them um, when they're not in trouble.
Mhm.
So I think those are some of the things that work, and we need more Black men and more Black women, but Black men especially. We need more Black men to be in the building at these schools.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, my husband is a third grade teacher at Durham Public Schools, and he's a Black man, and he's an amazing teacher. He reaches across all ethnicities to contact and to engage in ways that lead to positive outcomes for them, which I think you're absolutely right. But he's one of few. I don't know how many Black male teachers Durham Public Schools has as a whole, but I don't think it's very many. Now,
Right.
I've met several Black principals, more in the high school and middle school, but I do think you make a very valid point about that. Um, and so these We Are Kings, you said it does or does not exist in every Durham public school, or
It is not in every school. Last year, to my understanding, I think there were 17 schools that we are in, and they are in elementary, middle, and high school. But as of last year, I don't know how many they have added or if they have added any at all this year. But last year, I think they were in 17 schools. And I think we have about 50 some odd schools in Durham.
mm, where are the We Are Queens program?
Well, it's funny that you asked about that. That's one of the things that we're starting at my school. But the We Are Queens program, as of now, is not in existence with Durham Public Schools itself. But we at my school, at W.G. Pearson Elementary School, we have already initiated the We Are Queens program to mirror our Kings program ourselves.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for that. So we leave education alone for just a moment or two. So DJ Kraze,
Yeah.
how did that come to be, and what exactly is a DJ, and how does it apply to your other work that you spoke of?
Uh, well, so I became a disc jockey back when I was in high school.
Mhm.
Um, I started out with the crew of guys, and we DJ parties. When you have a party, everybody needs a DJ. And so I started out as a disc jockey with a crew of guys in high school. And when I got to college, um, I started doing a lot more DJing on my own. I was actually working up under a guy who I call my mentor, a guy named DJ Nabs out of Durham, and who, in my opinion, was probably one of the best DJs in the world back then. And we're talking about 1986, 87. Um, and so I started out DJing kind of under his tutelage, and he then ended up moving to Atlanta, where he actually became even more nationally known, and got to working with recording artists, Jermaine Dupri and Chris Cross and all those people, and he just blew it from there. But when he left, it kind of opened the door for me to start doing more things on my own.
Mhm.
And so I started doing that. And let's see, I've DJ'd in just about every nightclub you can possibly think of here in the Raleigh-Durham area, Greensboro, Charlotte. I mean, I've DJ'd all over the country. I've worked with um, a lot of different artists that you could name, hip hop, R&B artists. I work with everybody from LL Cool J to, and I mean on stage, from LL Cool J to Fantasia. I was Fantasia's road DJ for a while she was working on her new album, and she was kind of moving without the band, so they started utilizing a DJ with
Mhm.
her. I've done a lot with DJing, and DJing has kind of opened up doors and avenues for me to do a lot of different things. It allowed me to be passionate with the things that I love. As a matter of fact, when I initially started out as a substitute school teacher, I was a disc jockey at the time, and so I was DJing 4 or 5 nights a week, and so that's what I did. I didn't actually work a job from 1994 until 2000, 2000 and say what 16, 2015. So I was self-employed for all of those years. So I had the time to be able to be that parent that was in school. I got 4 children, 3 boys and a daughter. And so I was that parent that was always at school. I was that parent that was always volunteering for things and doing all these kind of stuff around the school, and just being visual. And I'll never forget one of the principals at the time, Miss Queen Bass. Well, she's Queen Scarborough now. She told me, she said, "Mr. Jarmon, you're always here and you're always helping out. You ought to find a way for you to get paid for that." And so she suggested that I apply to be a substitute school teacher, which I did. And that was early on in the phase. But DJing has opened doors for me to do a lot of different things. I think what kind of put me to the social justice end of it was in 2000. I had the opportunity of going on tour and working with the NAACP. They did a hip hop tour where we toured the country, and they had, every artist that you could think of that at some point touched that tour. We went from Virginia all the way to Biloxi, Mississippi. And but every time we made a stop and we did a performance, and I was a disc jockey for that whole tour, every time we made a stop and did a performance, we were registering people to vote. And that's kind of what started me in the role of doing the social justice type of work, as DJ Kraze. And so I kind of just stuck with it. Again, it's been my passion. It's been a lot of things that I do because that's what's in my heart. So that's kind of how I got into the being a community activist, so to speak.
It sounds like a very interesting time in your life. So we don't have very much time, but I want to ask 2 questions. First, what is it to be a Black man in America in these current times? And second question is as a father, what are your concerns about your children as Black Americans in this current time?
So being a Black man, and especially at this current time, I saw, and I just saw Robert Horry speaking, and Robert Horry is former NBA player. 7-time NBA champion. He got 7 championships, I think, with 3 or 4 different teams. I mean, he's just his career in the NBA was just incredible.
Isn't he the man that has the most NBA rings of all the NBA players?
He's one of. There's another player that has 7 rings as well.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
That's what I remember about him, is he had a bunch of rings.
Yes, he is. But being a black man in America at this time, well, being a black man in America, just period, is hard. It's a nonstop, just a constant kind of a looking over your shoulder type of, watching your back type of watching what you say and watching how you move type of atmosphere. And you know, when a person looks at your skin color as a weapon, then you're always armed. Mm-hmm. If that's the way they view you. If you view a black man as a threat, then they will always be a threat to you, because I will always be black. Right. And so if that's the way that, you know, certain white people look at you, and not just white people, but if that's the way that you're looked at, then that's a hard thing to overcome. How do you overcome? Because I can't change my skin color. Mm-hmm. So it is extremely hard being a black man in America. We have to be twice as good. We have to be twice as smart. We have to be twice as polite. You know, we have to be twice as humble. It's just, there's so many things that we have to be 2, 3, 4 times more than the next man, just because of our skin color. Mm-hmm. And that is a very, very hard way to go. Now, I have 4 children. I got a daughter and 3 boys. And I constantly have the conversations with my children, and they're most of them are grown. I have one he's a senior now at Hillside, but I have a 27-year-old. My daughter is the oldest; she's 31, and then my oldest son is 27. My next oldest is 21, and then my youngest is 17, but he'll be 18 in October. And all of them are at the age of when a police officer sees them, he is a grown man that they may not hesitate to put a bullet into. And so I have to have those conversations with all of them. And I've had those with my oldest boys, especially. And I've had it with my daughter as well, but especially my boys. And my instructions to my children are this: to always be polite, and whatever it is that officer tells you to do, then you do it. You don't try to fight your battle with that rogue police officer in the streets, because you will not win that battle. If the officer is wrong, if the officer is doing anything that is not what the protocol should be, then we will handle that in the courtroom. But if that officer is dead wrong and you try to fight him in the street because he is dead wrong, then you just might end up dead. And then we won't even have the opportunity to fight in the court of law. I would rather my children come home and say, hey, Dad, you know, I had this cop and he did this and he did that. I've instructed my children, if he tells you to lay down and kiss the pavement, you lay down and kiss the pavement. Mm-hmm. Because the object is, and Shaquille O'Neal said this the other night, he has the same conversation with his children. The object is to get you home.
Home. The object is to come home and
Come
come
home.
home safely.
That's it.
That's it. So we have about 3 minutes. I'm going to leave the remainder of time to you to share whatever you want to share that we did not cover. Please.
Well, I've shared a lot, and I thank you for having this conversation. This is one of those conversations that a lot of people will say these are part of the hard conversations. These are conversations that a lot of people would steer away from. They don't want to have them. But I am one. I'm very vocal. I'm very vocal in life. I'm very vocal in my job. I'm very vocal on Facebook, on social media. I'm the same person on Facebook that you see sitting in front of you right here today. And I believe what I believe. I believe our Black community is a strong community. I believe that we have a lot of power that we don't use to our full benefit. And when we learn as a Black community to use our power in the way that Martin Luther King Jr. talked about, in the way that Malcolm X talked about, and the way that Farrakhan talks about, they all talk the same, but the media will have you thinking that they were talking different. But we have power that we need to use, and we need to use it with each other and with ourselves and help build our Black businesses, our Black institutions, our Black communities back up where they were at one time.
Well, thank you so much for agreeing to chat with me today. This is very helpful. When the video converts, I will send you a link to the video, and you can let me know whether I can upload it or not, but I will send you a link and probably send it to you later on today. So again, thank you very much for chatting with me. Stay safe and hold on to those values that you espoused here.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you for having this conversation.
Absolutely. Stay safe.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.